Hey guys, it's Dash Zach back with another review, this time of the Slice68 HE aluminum case sick aesthetic keyboard. My first keyboard from Chilkey, and possibly the coolest keyboard aesthetically I have ever owned. Also possibly the most expensive, but I think you get value for that cost. It comes in two different colorways with some high quality switches and top of the line specs. Let's check those out now. You see in the red colorway, there's also this sick purple, black, and green colorway. And something that I found very cool is that they've matched the theming of the switches to the color of the board as well. So this comes with custom WS Flux clacky switches in both colorways, but they have different colors for each. While we're here, 35 plus or minus 5 GF for the initial force with a total trail of 3.5 millimeters, factory pre-lubed with a customized spring. I've heard great things about these switches and I did enjoy my time on them. Keycaps are PBT die sub, which usually feel very high quality. Has all the features you would want: DKS, rapid trigger, adjustable actuation, rapid trigger precision 2.005, 8K hertz polling, 32K scan rate, and does retail at $200. So let's actually start off with this differently. Let's look at the aesthetics. Fully aluminum case here. Very cool design here on the back. Rubber feet to keep in place, and a decent profile for typing out of the box. This feature here is actually screwed on, and it is a raised metal piece. And we also have some pretty cool design touches here, some trimmings at the top. Obviously, build quality here on point as it is an aluminum case, so there will be no flex. And annoyingly, let me move my mouse pad so that I can get a quick weight. I get the weight on my scale coming in at 1,510 grams, or 3 pounds 5.2 ounces. You can look here at the keycaps, PBT die sub, so they feel of a higher quality. Don't feel as if they wear off, be shiny over the time. Do not feel cheap like ABS or some of the translucent see-through keycaps you get. While I am on the keycaps, my one complaint with this board, because I am changing boards all the time that have massively different footprints, like this Yogo 75 Pro, for example, full-size keyboards 75%, 60%. My finger spacing for where the numbers are is a little bit off sometimes, so I do look occasionally to see what number I'm clicking. This is the representation of the number keys. So this, for example, is 7 due to those 7 yellow dots. My mind is not fast enough to pick that up at a glimpse, so I was mishitting the number keys quite a bit, and that did kind of bug me a little bit. Probably a skill issue though, if I'm being honest. Then taking a look at the switches here, which again, you saw the purple and green on the other colorway. Here we have the sort of Iron Man red yellow aesthetic. Very nicely boxed stem here inside what appears to be an octagon, actually. Extremely stable. Switches here definitely on the clackier side as described, and not the quietest as they top out here. And we'll see how that sounds in combination with the keycaps here in a bit. All the stabilizers on the spacebar to be nicely lubed, no issues there. Sound of the spacebar was definitely not offensive to me. Not the quietest, not the loudest. One issue I did have though, for some reason, the stabilizers on my enter key are kind of sticky. I don't have any lube on me because I'm not like a keyboard aficionado, so the pressing of the edge key is a little bit lacking. Really my main complaint with the board. Every other switch here feels very well lubed. Again, I think this is down to the stabilizers, probably a very easy fix, and not an issue I've seen anybody else have. We will jump into the lighting here in a little bit, as I do debate to myself, should I have gone with that green-black colorway, because it does indeed look sick. Sort of reminds me of the Legion expansion from World of Warcraft, almost like a Demon Hunter themed keyboard, whereas this has more of like an Iron Man aesthetic. But plugging the keyboard in here, I'm recording this a little bit earlier than normal, so it's a little bit harder to pick up on the RGB. I would say the RGB is relatively vibrant with a nice little ambiance here around the keycaps. Obviously not see-through keycaps, which does deliver a higher quality typing feel and sound in my opinion, so it will bleed through around the edges more so. I just have like a default sort of flowing rainbow look here, and then there is also this RGB strip here down below. The colors do lean a little bit on the more pastel side as opposed to like the vibrant deep colors you might see in other keyboard lightings. And that's about it as far as the lighting goes. So with that, let's jump into a sound test. So my general takeaways there from the sound test is this is actually the second loudest keyboard that I have used, and I think that is by intention. The iRock MG75 Pro is the straight up loudest, especially with their translucent see-through keycaps, but these are the WS custom clacky switches, and the board does deliver on that pure clacky sound. If that is the sound profile you're looking for, then I think you'll be right at home with these. As far as my personal preference, I like it a little bit more on the creamy, thocky side. I will say there is a fair amount of force back on your finger as you press the switches down, a little bit more than my personal preference, but still felt very crisp in typing, but overall the typing feel and sound on this I did find to be premium, and I think it would probably be nothing short of spectacular if I were to fully lube all of these switches and stabilizers. But something I like to note as someone who doesn't mod keyboards a bit and likes to talk about the stock experience out of the box. Jumping now into the software, I found this to be one of the places that the board actually excelled. I do wish that these lighting settings here did have actual names as opposed to you having to click random M1 to M16, 20 to figure out what they're doing, but I found the brightness and speed to be relatively adequate. As far as performance, obviously we have the normal travel options here, as well as the rapid trigger settings. With the settings I have here, for example, with absolute minimum 0.005 travel, actuation, and rapid trigger on WASD, in typing, I had no issues. In play, no accidental actuations. This is a case where the keyboard felt perfectly tuned to perform exactly up to my standards at the minimum actuations, and then if that's too much for your personal preference, you can tune it up, but you won't have any accidental actuations. You don't have any accidental hover actuations, which really are what bother me, even if you have the movement keys or whatever you might have on rapid trigger on the lowest settings, and in my opinion, that is perfect. Also, you can drag these settings here, and they update instantaneously. Also change them in 0.05 increments, which is very nice. There's no delay there. I've seen some web drivers that are not very responsive. This is extremely responsive. Also, advanced settings here for dead zone and polling rate. Obviously, you can remap, and then you have all the advanced functions like EKS, mod tap, SOCD, etc. I have SOCD on A and D, and it performed exactly how I would like it to. And you also have the different forms of input priority here, which I know some boards only have last input priority, but if you're used to one of the other options here, you can set that on the Slice68. So overall, no real complaints. Very responsive WebDriver, one of the better WebDrivers I've used. Not perfect. Obviously, there's some like formatting weirdness here, not naming the lighting. It could be more visually appealing, maybe fixing small things like that. It's not wooting level, but pretty satisfactory in my opinion. So then what are my overall impressions here of the Slice68HE? I think it is a very high quality keyboard. I think if you're looking for a perfectly clacky, very well built, very aesthetically pleasing keyboard out of the box, this might be for you. $200 is definitely a tall ask, and I fully understand that fact. I do think a set of keycaps like this, based off of my experience with Keytalk, probably run you about $40 or $50. The WS Flux switches also not cheap, very high quality switches, and the full aluminum case. So I do see why this makes it up to the $200 price point. If you want a premium keyboard with all those features and you love this aesthetic, again, I think it can make sense for you. If you're more budget minded, obviously this is not the board you're looking for, unless you're just curious how Chilkey is doing, which honestly I think is pretty good. Again, my main complaints here, the lack of actual numbers on the keycaps, which is just a me thing probably, and of course the not perfectly lubed stabilizers on my enter key. Perhaps a little bit more lube across the board on these switches. Don't know if it was just my unit, would make it feel a little bit more smooth in the typing experience. But again, nice and clacky, no cheap feeling anywhere on the board, specifically in the keycaps. A unique aesthetic with very high quality aluminum trimmings. And I will say the use of this board definitely makes me curious enough to potentially try out either their Slice75HE or any other keyboards they may have coming in the future. Also curious how these WS Flux switches feel in some of my other keyboards. So that about sums it up for my thoughts here on the Slice68HE. Please subscribe and like if you enjoyed the video. You can follow me on X at DazerZach. Check out the Mousecast podcast, as well as my peripheral Discord server. And with that, we'll see you.